All right, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, and children of all ages, fellow pandemic travelers, this is Seattle Pandemonium Shutdown day 397, I think, by my count. So what's going on? What's going down? I wanted to talk about the topics of the day, I guess, but let's talk about it in a meta sense, okay? Let's talk about absurdity for a second. You know how people seem to think that there are people who think or say or believe or postulate that we are living in a simulation, that we live in the matrix of some kind. Watch the movie The 13th Floor. Google it, kids. Same thing, right? This isn't really real, and what we're living in is some other thing that's outside of the thing we're living in. Okay, fine. That would explain why reality show TV personalities become president. That would explain why a guy named Anthony Weiner got caught sending pictures of his wiener to an underage girl. Are you starting to see what I'm talking about here? Okay. So let's talk about absurdity. Or I'll talk, you listen. Okay. Absurdity in the sense of things that are happening now that I was told are unacceptable a few months ago, or maybe a year or two ago, being done now by people who are also absurd people. So the situation at the border, okay? Just briefly. You have a crisis. Our federal government, or at least our executive branch, refused to refer to it as such, but it is. There's a huge spike in illegal crossings. Children, they're packing these kids in cages. I mean, the cages are made out of like plexiglass and stuff, but it looks like a pen of some kind to me. Looks like a cage. I was told that this is very unacceptable. The behavior of a fascist, racist dictator in the form of the bad orange man, one Donald J. Trump. Now, under Biden, not so much. Not so much outrage, not so much crying, not so much demanding that it stop. And furthermore, a seeming complete disconnect in terms of what policy means and then the results. So now you've got videos, again, briefly, of children being thrown over the border wall. I mean, you are taking kids up to the border wall that exists and throwing them over and then just let them go. They're on the other side. It's America's problem now. Now, not only is this deeply disturbing, but it doesn't bode well for the future. This kind of behavior will continue, and you will have children, unaccompanied minors, if you will, flooding over the border. People throwing their babies over the border to get them into America. Why? Survey says because apparently they believe that Joe Biden would give them amnesty. That's kind of where we're at. That's happening. Now, what's also happening, that's not the absurd thing. I mean, that is absurd because Biden rolled back Trump policies that were preventing such behavior. But that's not the absurd part. The absurd part is the Biden administration allegedly announcing that they are going to resume construction of border wall in some places. Now, that's a distinction without a difference from where I'm sitting. Okay, so we're gonna do what Trump was doing, which is build border wall in the areas that are highest trafficked in order to deter such behavior so that people pursue other more legal routes into America, and we had a reduction in illegal crossings. Okay, that's the absurdity. As I was told very loudly, very vigorously for 4 years that this was racist, xenophobic behavior. Walls are racist, and they don't work, by the way, except when we erect a wall around the Capitol complex. That wall works, but if you have a wall on the border, that doesn't work. And Israel has a wall along their border with the sort of Gaza Strip and stuff, but walls don't work. Okay. All right. Again, absurdity. Now let's go another step here. Let's go to today. Joseph R. Biden, our president, whether you like it or not. No, he was not going to be unelected, guys. Get your head out of the, stop snorting that QAnon dust. What we're looking at now is executive actions on gun control. Yes, it's happening. Is it gonna stick? Is anything meaningful gonna happen? I don't know. Some of these executive orders are they're kind of bizarre nonsense, like wrist mounts stabilizers for handguns, somehow making them more lethal. And it's like, yeah, I don't think so. I think that if that was true, then every criminal who wants to go shoot people would have the accessory that makes them more deadly. And like our military, every soldier would be issued with a handgun that has a wrist stabilizing, like a wrist mount to it. Various other executive orders. Now, again, this is par for the course for Democrats. I mean, it's the scary black rifle that has a funky looking barrel shroud on it. Oh no, that looks scary because I don't know anything and I'm just afraid. That's not the absurdity, though. As stupid as that is, that's not the absurdity. The absurdity is Hunter Biden, that is Joseph Biden's son, the druggy layabout total F-up, is accused, allegedly, of forging or lying on a background check form in order to procure a .38 caliber handgun. Now, in my limited understanding, I feel like a .38 is probably a revolver. I don't know if that matters. That's not really the point. It's an imagery thing. So, Hunter Biden, who can't remember if the laptop that was leaked, that had pictures of him in all kinds of, again, absurd, compromising positions in various states of undress and sexual. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. You gotta see this little dog. Oh my goodness. He's so cute. Okay, that's enough of that. Hunter Biden can't remember if that's his laptop or not, but apparently, allegedly, forged a document or lied on a document in order to procure a firearm. And now I'm being chastised by his father, the president, about dangerous guns out here in our streets, and it's an epidemic of gun violence. Meanwhile, his own son is basically illegally trafficked a firearm to himself. I mean, you want to talk about loopholes? There's a loophole, and this goes back to, I'm going to say hypernormalization. You're supposed to see this. It's supposed to be right in front of you. It's supposed to be offensively, criminally absurd, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. What are you going to do about it? Vote him out in a half a decade? Is that what you're going to do? Is that going to solve the problem? Is that going to make any of this nonsense, make all this crooked straight? No. It's like nothing you're going to do is going to somehow resolve the absurdity that we're being force-fed every day. The hypocrisy. This is the levels you go through. It's kind of like grief, right? You deny that it's real. Oh no, it's only the other political party or the other side that do it, or it's only these kinds of people who do that. No, it's kind of all of them. It might kind of be everybody. But then you go, well, but we can fix it. If we just vote out the bad orange man, then we'll have good old Joe in there, and then everything will be fine. And then everything basically becomes objectively worse. But then, okay, so what's the solution? I don't know. Jeffrey Epstein was, murdered in prison or killed himself or whatever. And there's no meaningful noises being made by anybody about what to do about the blatant hypocrisy of being told by a guy who walks around with armed security all day that you need to be restricted in the kinds of firearms you're allowed to own because some other people did bad things with their guns. And you need to be disarmed. And in fact, it's not only the right thing to do, it's the patriotic thing to do. It's time to have a conversation about gun control. It's absurdity, guys. It's just layer upon layer of absurdity. There seems to be no end to it. And again, that's sort of like the grieving thing. You start to realize it. You realize, no, there's not really meaningful reform. People are being disingenuous. The media are clearly being disingenuous about anything related to guns. And like, they just blatantly ignore stats and everything else. And the only thing that's left after the frustration, the astonishment, the bewilderment, the confusion, the assertiveness, like, oh no, I'll correct this. I'll go on Twitter, I'll go online, and I'll fix this by providing people with the right information and pointing out why people are wrong. I'll be able to fix it. No, you won't. So then what's left? What's left is, I don't know, some kind of terrible resolve. I mean, you have to understand that what you have is a massive propaganda machine that seems to be committed to disarming you. And leftists, communists, Marxists, your guy was against that stuff too. So this isn't necessarily even a left-wing, right-wing issue. There is a massive propaganda machine that seemingly exists to push this agenda in order to, as I've stated before, give our government, our elected officials, the excuse they need or they want to pass legislation they wanted to pass anyway, which is gun control. And then I'll sound like a kook by saying they're trying to disarm us. At which point you go, well, why, Kyle? And I don't necessarily have an answer for that. But as usual, I just have to look at the result. What is the result of what's going on? Consequentialism, is that what it's called? It's just look at what's happening. What's actually happening. Not what you'd like to happen, not what could possibly happen, but what's actually happening. And the result is, we will have further restrictions at a federal level on our rights. And as I've said before, I'm not particularly interested in having a conversation about what rights the federal government can take away from me. I don't know how you feel. I'm not going to discuss this with you. If you're not opposed to it, then I don't necessarily care what you think, and I'm not going to sit down and barter with you about what rights of mine you're going to allow the federal government to take away from me. And I don't know why anyone is in such a rush, especially after the last 4 years of Cheeto Hitler is a fascist and he's going to put people in concentration camps. Why all the libs are suddenly in a rush to disarm themselves? Do you not hear yourself? Do you not understand the context that you created culturally of what is going on? Fear-mongering about the awesome reach of the federal government and how it could go completely awry, and now you're tripping over yourselves in order to disarm yourselves? I feel like this is just, you're not serious people deserving of serious consideration, which is more to my point about how this isn't a conversation. There's nothing to talk about. You don't know what's going on, and I might deem it worthy of my time to help inform you about what's going on so that you look like less of an idiot on the internet. That's kind of the extent of that's kind of where I'm at now. And, you had Biden today, again, absurdity, saying, well, constitutional amendments aren't, what was the term exactly? Aren't definitive or aren't, or it's not universal. Is that what he said? It's like, well, there's like exceptions, you know? And it's like, okay, so there's exceptions to what? Is it the 19th Amendment? Let's see, the 13th Amendment was women voting. The 19th Amendment was abolition, or... No, it's the other way around. I think 13th Amendment is abolition, 19th is women's suffrage. So those have some non-universality to them. Those are not definitive amendments. Like, some women can vote, but you can restrict some women from voting based on something that we implement by executive order. Like, I'm telling you, absurdity. It abounds. And again, that hypernormalization thing, it's right in front of you. It's right there, and I increasingly believe it's meant to be right there in front of you, to show you that you're powerless. Now, we're not powerless, I don't think, not completely, but it's right there because there's nothing you can do about an executive order at this moment. It's gonna have to get challenged. Like, people, this is the thing, people are going to have to be taxed financially and with their time by carrying weapons that have been banned by this unconstitutional executive order. Then they're gonna have a good lawyer, and they're gonna have to go to court and not take a plea deal and get out of trouble. No, they're gonna have to fight it all the way to the Supreme Court to then have the executive order overturned. So someone with deep pockets is gonna have to take the hit to make to overturn this kind of stuff. And it's dark, it's intentional, it's manipulative, and it's a gross expansion of federal power. And again, libs, you should be concerned about this. All right, I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.